Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. Stick around to the end of the video to learn more. The Chiefs' initial 53-man roster and practice squad is set. I'm here to tell you who's in, who's out, and give you every single player that's on the Chiefs roster on today's KCSN Update presented by DraftKings.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome to today's KCSN Update presented by our friends at DraftKings. Super excited to be into a great location for you here at the KCSN studio. And I am here to give you the roster breakdown. As I said in the intro to this video, we're going to go position by position, guy by guy, and tell you each guy that's on the 53-man roster. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Let's dive right into it. I know you guys wanted to get into this roster, so let's start with the quarterback position. Chiefs only keep two guys, Patrick Mahomes and Blaine Gabbert. I know there was a bit of a controversy, you could say, with the quarterback 2 situation. Shane Buechele does not make the roster. Blaine Gabbert is that quarterback 2. It also didn't end up adding Shane Buechele back to the roster. Interesting enough, he didn't make the practice squad. He was claimed by the Buffalo Bills, and he was out there on practice on Thursday for Buffalo. He was signing with the Bills practice squad, wasn't at practice. For the Chiefs, was at practice for the Bills starting on Thursday. So the quarterback room of Patrick Mahomes and Blaine Gabbert set. Now let's go to the running back room, as 3 guys are kept for the Kansas City Chiefs for the running backs. I know there's a lot of speculation about 4 running backs, whether that last guy would be it. And we get that answer here with Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Jerick McKinnon added as the 3 running backs for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Deneric Prince and LaMichael Pirine conversation was very hot and heavy towards the end of the preseason there, as I got to see Pirine take a little bit more snaps than Prince at the very end there. But nevertheless, nothing happens. They only keep 3 running backs, and the fullback era is over in Kansas City, as the Chiefs officially do not keep a player categorized as a fullback. So that is a different era in Kansas City here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Next, let's move on to wide receivers. They keep 7, another new era in Kansas City. The first time that the Kansas City Chiefs have kept 7 wide receivers since Andy Reid has been the head football coach here. They keep MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, Kadarius Toney, Richie James, Justin Ross, and Rashee Rice. I think all those names we anticipated to see on there. Really great to see Justin Ross, I should say, make the roster. Justin Watson was the guy that people were talking about maybe moving some guys. Maybe Ihmir Smith-Marsette comes in. Chiefs end up trading Ihmir Smith-Marsette to the Panthers for a 2025 conditional 6th-round pick swap. Interesting trade there from the Chiefs. They got something for him, so I believe that the Chiefs like to move up in that 7th round there. Brett Veach has the pedigree to draft really good players in the 7th round, maybe get a little bit higher of a priority in the 7th round. They can find a guy in 2025 that they like. Don't necessarily hate the move there from Brett Veach and company. But that's 7 wide receivers. Again, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Justin Watson, Richie James, Rashee Rice, Justin Ross. Great to see Justin Ross on that roster. He's done the hard part already, folks. Getting back healthy, getting on the roster. Great to see for the Chiefs wide receivers. They do end up keeping 7 of those guys, and they only end up keeping 3 tight ends as well, which I think is interesting. Travis Kelce, Blake Bell, and Noah Gray are your 3 tight ends for the Kansas City Chiefs. Jody Fortson is on the IR, effectively ending his season. There's some technicalities he can come back, but I think it's pretty well understood that he's going to miss the season for the Kansas City Chiefs. Unfortunate for Jody, because I'd love to see him on the field, but one of those guys who has had a lot of injury concerns in his career. He's not alone on the injury reserve, as Najee Johnson also is on that injury reserve, out for the year, as they were placed on that injury reserve before the season started, before the initial 53-man roster was announced. That means that they cannot return for the season. So we've been talking about here at KCSN. You guys already know, I'm sure, that if they're placed on there, they cannot return. But guys now placed on the IR miss about 4 weeks. I think it's a minimum of 4 weeks that these teams will have to do. These players will have to miss. So let's wrap up the offense with the offensive linemen, as there's 10 offensive linemen on this roster. We'll start with the starters. At left tackle, Donovan Smith. Left guard, Joe Thuney. Center, Creed Humphrey. Right guard, Trey Smith. Right tackle, Jawan Taylor. No surprises there. But Nick Allegretti, Prince Tega Winogo, Lucas Niang, Mike Caliendo, and Wanya Morris round out that group of 10 offensive linemen for the Kansas City Chiefs. recent years, Andy Reid has kind of trended more in the direction of keeping more offensive linemen than he has in years past. Seemingly paid off, but Mike Caliendo playing really well in the preseason works himself onto that roster. Still keeping Lucas Niang as a tackle guy. Prince Tega Winogo has shown ability to play both tackle spots. Same thing with Wanya Morris, the young guy, the guy they just drafted, the rookie. Glad to see him make the roster. Nick Allegretti is that kind of do-it-all Swiss Army knife in the middle of that offensive line. So looking back at the offense, there's 25 guys on that offense. Quarterbacks Patrick Mahomes and Blaine Gabbert. Running backs Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon. Wide receivers Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Justin Watson, Richie James, Rashee Rice, and Justin Ross. Tight ends Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and Blake Bell. And the offensive linemen, as I just mentioned, Donovan Smith, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Jawan Taylor, Nick Allegretti, Prince Tega Winogo, Lucas Niang, Mike Caliendo, and Wanya Morris. Let's flip to the defensive side of the ball now. As you know, they kept 25 guys on offense, so that means they kept 25 guys on defense. They had their 3 specialists. Let's go ahead and get specialties out of the way right now. We'll go right into those guys as they didn't see any competition in training camp. There was no question on Harrison Butker becoming that kicker, Tommy Townsend being that punter, and that long snapper being James Winchester. No competition. Those were kind of penciled in there to get to your 53. Those guys were pretty much in Sharpie going into it. But let's get to the defensive side of the ball now, as we'll start with the defensive tackles. On the initial 53-man roster, the Chiefs had 5 defensive tackles. Since then, they've made a move to bring in a guy, which I'll get to later. But right now, they only have 4 defensive tackles with Derek Nottie, Tershawn Wharton, Keandre Coburn, and Neil Farrell, a trade that they made with the Oakland Raiders, sending a 6th-round pick to Oakland for Neil Farrell. Those are your 4 defensive tackles starting out for this year. Defensive ends, you have George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Malik Herring, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the 1st-round pick from 2023, and B.J. Thompson, another rookie pick that the Chiefs made, a guy that we got to spend some time with at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Great guy, really like B.J. Thompson, what he can do for this defense there. That is your defensive line. So 9 defensive linemen for the Kansas City Chiefs, keeping a little bit more guys on the back end. And a position I think that they're keeping a little bit more guys than we thought was at the linebacker position, as they do keep 6 guys. Not only, they keep 6 guys with Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil, Leo Chanel, Jack Cochran, and Cam Jones is that guy that ends up being, I'll say, a quote-unquote surprise in terms of the ad here. Listen, these linebackers are very versatile in terms of special teams. Jack Cochran and Cam Jones, both guys who play a lot of special teams, so I'm not necessarily surprised that they put an extra linebacker on here. Cam Jones did play pretty well in the preseason, so made his way onto this roster as the Chiefs do take 6 linebackers. They also keep 6 cornerbacks as well, with Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, Nick Jones. That 6th cornerback would be Darius Rush, who they claimed off of waivers from the Indianapolis Colts, a move that I mentioned that the Chiefs made to take away from the defensive tackles, as they had Matt Dickerson initially on the 53-man roster. He is no longer there. Actually on the practice squad, we'll get to him later, but they cut him to add Darius Rush, as they claimed him off of waivers from the Indianapolis Colts, as I mentioned, but they add him to that cornerback room, and that means the safeties room, you could say 4 or 3, depending on how you want to categorize Shamari Connor. He does make the roster. Depending on how you want to categorize him with the cornerbacks or the safeties, I put him in at safety because I think that's where he's going to be playing most. Justin Reed, Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, and Mike Edwards, 4 safeties there for the Kansas City Chiefs on the defensive side of the ball. So let's run through that defense real quick. One more time. Defensive tackles, Derek Nottie, Tershawn Wharton, Keandre Coburn, and Neil Farrell. Defensive ends, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Malik Herring, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and B.J. Thompson. Linebackers, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, Drew Tranquil, Leo Chanel, Jack Cochran, and Cam Jones. Cornerbacks, Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, Nick Jones, and Darius Rush. Safeties, Justin Reed, Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, and Mike Edwards. Now, we'll get into the practice squad here, but let me know in the comment section below before we move on to the practice squad who you were surprised did not make the 53-man roster. I want to know what you guys have to say in the comment section below. I'll be interacting with you guys down there because I'm really curious to what you guys thought about the initial 53-man roster for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go ahead and get into some other guys that are under contract but did not necessarily make the active roster and don't count against the active roster. As I mentioned, Jody Fortson is a guy, and Nazeeh Johnson, 2 guys that were already placed on the IR, and they are out for the year. They have 2 guys on there. They placed Chris Jones on the reserve did not report list, basically saying that, hey, the Chiefs are placing him on this list. Nate Taylor did a really great job explaining it on the Only Weird Games show. You can watch that up here in the and if you're watching this on YouTube, go watch that episode of Only Weird Games here on our KCSN channel. Nate Taylor did a great job of breaking that down of what that means for him, but basically means the Chiefs can place him. They still have the rights to his contract and everything like that, but that means they don't have to pay him. And that means that he won't count against the salary cap for this season, each of those game checks. So good move by the Chiefs there. You get to see basically that they don't expect him to report for week 1. If he does, it hasn't by the time I'm recording this video, and if he does by the time this video is out, he'll look like a fool. But it looks like the Chiefs don't expect him to report for that first game of the season. And lastly on that list is the reserved exempt. The commissioner's list is for Charles Omenihu, who is facing a 6-game suspension for the beginning of the season. Those guys under contract and not counted against the active roster. So let's go into the practice squad now. As the Chiefs have 17 guys on their practice squad. And you might be saying, Tucker, they could only have 16 guys on the practice squad. That's true. You can have 16 guys in the practice squad, but because they have Chuck Godric or Jason Godric, I know he goes by, I don't want to butcher his full name. I feel bad, but I don't know if I can get it out there. He is an international player pathway program, so he does not count. He does count, but doesn't at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain. The Chiefs, because they have an international pathway player program guy, they can keep an extra guy on their practice squad. Because of Jason Godric, they're able to keep an extra guy. That's why they have 17 on there. So let's run through the practice squad real quick. Cornerback Reese Taylor, center Austin Ryder, safety Dion Bush, defensive tackle Danny Shelton is back with the team. As I mentioned, Jason Godric, the International Pathway Player Program, he's back. Matt Bushman, Deneric Prince, the running back, LaMichael Pirine, both of those running backs that kind of had a little bit of a battle for RB4 are back with the team. Wide receiver Cornell Powell, linebacker Cole Christensen, cornerback Echo Boydo, quarterback Chris Oladokin, defensive end Truman Jones, offensive tackle Darian Kennard, defensive tackle Chris Williams, and defensive tackle Matt Dickerson are all back with the team. Now, there's 3 signings that were reported, have not been confirmed by the transaction report of the NFL, but are anticipated to take place. These 3 guys, if they are added to the practice squad, that means 2 of the guys that I had just talked about will be waived, will be cut off of the practice squad to make room for these 3 guys. Montrell Washington, the wide receiver, tight end Garrett Prince, and quarterback Keith Taylor. So those 3 guys are likely to be added to the practice squad. Those have been reported moves, not been official according to the NFL transaction report, which should come out, and those will be official. They'll have corresponding moves. So make sure you stay tuned to us here at KC Sports Network, as we will get you up to date on everything that's happening with this roster. And a couple of weird quirks about the roster as well. This tweet from Matt Derrick does a good job of talking about these kind of player situations. That wide receiver Nico Remigio, linebacker Olakunle Futakasi, and the offensive guard Jerome Carvin all cleared waivers with injury designations. They revert to the injury reserve list with the Chiefs and will be on IR for the season unless the club reaches an injury settlement with them. We've seen the Chiefs do this a couple times with guys. I think Isaiah Moore, they did it earlier in the season. The undrafted free agent out of North Carolina State. I said North Dakota State, North Carolina State. NC State, he was able to reach an injury settlement and hit the free market, but I think came back with the Chiefs. So there's a lot of different ways that these guys can do it. That's just a little quirk situation with those 3 guys as well. Now, there's only one departure for the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of waiver claims, guys that were cut and claimed by other teams during the waiver and the roster cut down day. That's Khalif Halassi. You saw him have a really good interception. He was claimed by the Cleveland Browns on waiver claims, so very interesting to see there. But I think I got you all caught up to date on what's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs roster. Again, things are moving, things are shaking here at KCSN and for the Kansas City Chiefs as they have their roster set for the 2023 season. As of now, I'm sure we might see some injury designations. We might see some other things going on. As I mentioned, those practice squad guys will be up in the air as well. So make sure you stay tuned and subscribe to us here at KC Sports Network. We're going to have a lot of great content for you. The KC Lab will be going live at 8 p.m. Only Weird Games live at 4:30 p.m. So you got a great night worth of content talking about this roster, breaking it all down from an intellectual football standpoint. Those guys know ball, and if you want ball, you subscribe here at KC Sports Network. Appreciate you watching all the way until the end of the video. But before you go, I've got to tell you about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. And college football fans, Week 1 is here. DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking you up with a can't-miss offer to start the season strong. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on college football and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Anything can happen in college football. Your team could go from unranked to dynasty mode in just a couple of years. Change comes fast. The only thing that's a lock is the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Life is more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they just bet $5 on college football. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Physically present in Kansas. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. That's going to do it for today's KCS update. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. We'll be back soon with another update. So until then, I'll talk to you later.